I think for the most part on any assignment, because I've noticed this with my students over the last couple of years, I tell them, I'll spend all this time explaining the assignment, and they'll ask, what are the first questions they ask? When is that due? And I'm like, 2 weeks from now. Oh, okay. And I can tell at that point they stop listening. And so, but what I've seen is the bigger the project, the bigger the assignment, the more tasks involved in it, then the more likely they will be to procrastinating on those. So if it's a homework assignment, that they have to turn in the following class period, like if it's a Monday class and we meet by Wednesday, they'll get that done. But if it's a paper that's due 2 weeks, or we've had a local history project that they've been working on all semester, and I had students come in all last week to see me, and they just were starting on something, and it was due last Thursday. So I think the bigger the assignment, the more likely they will be to procrastinate. And I've seen some of those studies. I've read some articles that say, procrastination was a good thing in this case, or whatever they were measuring. It seemed to have, the ones that did better were the ones that procrastinated. I'm not a believer of that. I believe that if you intentionally procrastinate, then I don't really think that's procrastination, because there's a difference between procrastinating, I just don't want to get it done. I don't want to do it now because you don't want to have to deal with it, or, there's anxiety or stress related to that assignment. But I think if you intentionally put stuff off, that's more like prioritizing. If you're scheduling, you're prioritizing. I don't think that's procrastination. I, for the most part, don't believe that procrastination can be a good thing. Yes, I do. Very much so. I am probably the worst procrastinator I've ever encountered. And I tell my students that. I tell them, I try to convince them of how bad it is, and I tell them, I know, because I am a procrastinator at heart, and I always tell them, do as I say, not as I do. I wish I wasn't a procrastinator, even though I do well on assignments and stuff. I've been pretty successful. I still think I could have done better, or I would have avoided many all-nighters, which is not healthy. So yeah, I am a procrastinator. Thanks, Brina. There are several things that I tell my students in order for them to avoid procrastination or reduce the level of procrastination. And the first thing I tell them is time management. I always try to encourage them to use an organizer, prioritize stuff, and then manage your time effectively. Now, for a freshman in college, that's it's kind of a big thing to ask, because they're not used to effective time management, or they don't have the skills to do that. So I tell them, just be realistic, right? So this assignment, realistically should take this long. If it's a paper that I've assigned 2 weeks before and it's 4 to 6 page paper, they should be able to write that in a week with everything else that they have going on. So, but be realistic. Don't say, I'm going to sit down tonight and write it all out. In time management, try to do it in chunks, right? So for tonight, I'm going to do 2 hours on this paper. So that's one thing. I tell them, use effective time management skills, be realistic, try to work in an environment where you can be productive. So if you go back to the dorm room, or if you are in your apartment and your roommate is there, and you know that they are not, that they're going to be interrupting you, then probably that's not a very good environment to be working in. So try to pick an environment that's conducive for getting stuff done. What else do I tell them? I also tell them sometimes, grab a buddy, a partner or somebody in the class that you can be accountable to. It's kind of like exercising. Yeah. Be accountable, that can keep, you guys can keep each other accountable and help each other out. I've noticed that they tend to listen to their peers more than they'll listen to the professor. So, I tell them get a draft done early enough, have one of your peers. We do peer editing in our classrooms like a week before the assignments due, because they seem to maybe want to do better in front of their peers than in front of their professors. I don't know. So those are just a couple of things that I tell them to help reduce procrastination and maybe eliminate it altogether.